the richest man in the world looking at our personal data. Please look at my data. Tell me that there's 20 million people over the age of 100 getting Social Security benefits. How stupid are we? Who's in charge of this? I can run an Excel spreadsheet in 2 minutes and sort by age. You know, there's someone 300 years old before our nation was created that's getting Social Security benefits, and there's a ton of people over 150 years old. Our taxpayer money is going for fraud, waste, and abuse, and I can't wait to see it get fleshed out.
Get ready for a new episode of KP Talks Dollars and Cents. Learn financial literacy and get real-time updates on all things housing, finance, and real estate. So let's get started. Here's your host, Kevin Perenio.
Hey, it's KP coming to you live from the Champions Club. This is in Deer Valley. I'm here with 17 kids and 10 adults in a single house. It's crazy. There's my little 9-year-old Savage, 4th grader, almost 10. And we're finishing up lunch here. I apologize, I didn't get a video up Monday. Now, it's kind of a light news week. My son is interested. Buddy, Luca, are you ready to play? Are you ready to ski? No, he's gonna play airstrike. So the CPI report last week is pretty much, you've been washed out, and it was higher. I'm gonna talk about that, retail sales, PPI, and what the Fed said this week. The 10-year Treasury, which directly impacts all of our mortgage rates, has been in a lower range. So it was touching up in that 480 range. Now it's at 465 down to let's call it 440. We have a full set of news and data reports before the next Fed meeting, March 19th, which will distinguish whether, the CPI was sustainable or if it was another blip on the radar like last January. January season has a higher number, but what's interesting is 0.37% of the 0.45% increase in the CPI was from like auto leasing, auto insurance, cars, which is insane and of course unsustainable. Car prices don't go up forever. And so when the Fed, the whole goal of raising rates was to make everything more expensive, and it's working. And I'll give you some evidence. So auto insurance has been going up in 23 and 24 at over 20% a year. And this year it's only projected to go up 7%. But as that cost goes up, people buy less. And the auto sales are trending down for the month of January. Why? Because retail sales came out last week, and it was a hot number. It was a decreasing number on many fronts. Now, if you take out food and energy, it was like 0.3 versus 0.4, but it was negative 0.9% on the headline number. People aren't buying stuff as much, and they aren't buying cars and auto leases, thus not paying insurance in the month of January in the retail sales report. So that will end up being reflected in future CPI reports. It's cold. We've had a very cold winter. January and February have been tough. People aren't hunting for houses as much in the colder markets, and it's been reflected in all those data points as well. Housing starts are down big time. Multifamily's up, but single family housing starts is down. And so it's a lot of seasonal trends, but the impact of higher rates still working. 7% is about the 30-year fixed rate. We're hovering around that range. We touched a little bit lower earlier in the fall, and everything doesn't go up or down in a straight line, but the trend is still down. The PPI, the Producer Price Index, has some inputs in it that flow into the Fed's preferred measure of inflation, the PCE, and all those inputs were soft last week. So that could be good news for the personal consumption expenditure when the Fed takes a look at that later this month and into next month. So again, a full set of data readings before the next Fed meeting, which can be bond favorable and mortgage rate favorable. We continue to grind. That's what we do. Stock market touching all-time highs. Earning reports have been great. 78% of the companies reporting are beating earnings by 4% or more on earnings, and 6% or more on top-line revenue. So their stocks are working. So next week, we have a couple different things coming out that will impact the stock market. I am not a financial advisor. I am not responsible for your losses, only your profits. But did anyone see Microcomputer catching a bid this week? It's touching up to about 60. They have to report their financials, or else they get delisted on the NASDAQ. And I think on the same day, NVIDIA reports their earnings. And even if they blow out earnings, there's still some fear of the DeepSeek. But we'll see if they mention it and talk about it. Remember, DeepSeek came out and claims for $6.4 million, they built ChatGPT, which we know is bullshit because everything from China is bullshit. Even them not buying treasuries is BS. I saw a great post from Mohammed Al-Arian who said that it looks like China has been offloading treasuries, but they're also not counting subsidiaries and other companies that they own that they could be parking treasuries in, which wouldn't get counted for China's buying. So I don't believe anything that comes from China. I don't invest in China. I don't buy stocks in China. I got burned by Luckin Coffee many years ago, especially the next Starbucks. I don't trust anything from that country, period, full stop. Our country is the greatest. It's pretty evidenced by what's going on, but we have problems here too. The budget reconciliation, our government spending is the biggest driver of inflation. And come March 14th, 15th, this continuing resolution is a big deal. The House has passed it in a committee, a quote, one big beautiful bill, which is a budget and extends the Trump tax cuts. The Senate, out of a committee, has preferred a different approach. They want to pass a budget first and then deal with the tax cut extension later. So that's going to be a showdown. But what will absolutely, ultimately, and it sounds crazy, will define that showdown is public opinion, because there is still a razor-thin margin in both the House and the Senate, even if the president thinks he has a mandate in the first 90 days by overwhelmingly winning the presidency from the Electoral College and winning the popular vote. So that's going to drive the bond market and create some uncertainty. Of course, tariff talk is going to create some uncertainty. But it was a big nothing burger in his first administration. There were no trade wars. And it's so far has just been threats and tools to get him to negotiate campaign promises. That's not to say that it won't become a trade war and won't spiral. But he's taking on Europe. He's trying to end the Ukraine war. He's taking the sides of Russia. He has a delegation meeting in Dubai. A peace dividend is a good thing for the world if there's no wars. He wants to rebuild Gaza. I know it sounds funny, but the point is well taken that if we don't do something there, they're just going to rebuild, and the same old shit that's been happening for 1,000 years will just fight over and over again. Anybody live in a Jewish neighborhood in New York? Well, you've had Palestinians up there literally physically assaulting Jewish people and protesting. So it's a mess. It's always going to be a mess. I'm not making a political comment. I'm just saying I like peace. I like a peace dividend in the world, and we can't help that people hate each other. The Doge, I know it's a big deal. It's impacting our business. 50% of HUD employees allegedly being fired. A bunch of revamping, obviously, CFPB. We're going to see how that all shakes out. The MBA, Mortgage Bankers Association, has put out a fantastic statement about that. So we're going to see how that stuff shakes out. It's interesting to see like the extreme cases that Doge is uncovering. I know people want to say, oh, he's looking at private data, this and that, like literally accusing a guy that like puts every single thing on Twitter, X, that he now owns, literally putting every single thing on X that he ever does in complete transparency, but they're fearful of him, the richest man in the world, looking at our personal data. Please look at my data. Tell me that there's 20 million people over the age of 100 getting Social Security benefits. How stupid are we? Who's in charge of this? I can run an Excel spreadsheet in 2 minutes and sort by age. There's someone 300 years old before our nation was created that's getting Social Security benefits, and there's a ton of people over 150 years old. Our taxpayer money is going for fraud, waste, and abuse, and I can't wait to see it get fleshed out. Obviously, I hope they don't go overboard, but they are absolutely dismantling Washington, D.C. and the system that has been built up the last, let's call it 15 years. I had an incredible Libertarian attorney, my buddy Arif Panju, in my house last night. He works for IJS. They're a Libertarian firm. They take on cases like, for example, someone in Humboldt had the city and county tear down their building that they owned on a fee simple deed and trust, and they tore it down because at some point there was CBD business going on there. I mean, think about that. The government comes in and tear down your building that you own because someone before that was growing pot plants or something in the basement. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in government overreach. And so I think the Doge team will have, from a macro level, a lot of stuff to chew on for the first 6 months to a year that literally anyone can agree with. Just like anyone should agree with lower interest rates and a Treasury and president focusing on the 10-year. Anyone that says anything other, read what they're writing. They're just spitting out either clickbait headlines or they're spitting out, far extreme talking points. Wait and see. That's all we can do. We're week 5, almost week 6. Housing market strong, although, it's seasonally slow right now. But we're going to continue to watch all this stuff and see how it plays out. And I'm going to exercise some emotional intelligence. I am going to zen myself. I'm not staying at the Stein Erikson Lodge because it's so expensive. But just imagine yourself in that heated pool right now with all the things going around you in the world. Doesn't that make you feel better? It's going to be okay. This too shall pass. Have a great one. I'll try and get something out Friday.
You've been listening to KP Talks Dollars and Cents, a top-rated show for those who want to learn about the economy and mortgage environment. Tune in each week for more episodes, and please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Kevin Perenio does not render or offer to render personalized investment or tax advice through KP Talks Dollars and Cents. The information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, tax, investment, or legal advice. For more info, follow KP Talks Dollars and Cents on all of our social channels.